Morning. You heard Trump's foreign policy speech this week. Tell me what you believe a Trump presidency would mean for the national security of this country.
I think based on the speech, you have somebody who doesn't understand the difference between a business negotiation and a negotiation with sovereign powers. For example, he, on the one hand, says we need to be a more reliable ally to our friends. And then in the next breath, he basically says we're going to rip up all those burden-sharing agreements that we've had over the decades with them and make them go their own way if they don't pay for everything. He says some things that it's hard to disagree with. The allies ought to be doing more. But how do you get them there when you're dealing with 28 sovereign countries? And, you know, nobody argued harder for them to do more than I did. But how do you actually get these countries, many of which have weak governments, to agree to things that are very difficult? And all I'm saying is that he doesn't understand that there's a give and take in international relations that is different than in the business community. And just one further comment. He talks about walking. How do you walk away from China, a country that holds $1 trillion in U.S. treasuries and with which we have $500 billion in trade every year, and at the same time say we're going to launch a trade war against them, at the same time we're asking them to pressure North Korea?
But you've heard people campaign. You've heard people with no foreign policy experience come in and take over and do it a little differently than they're campaigning. So tell me what you really believe. If Donald Trump is elected, are we safe? Is the national security in good hands?
One of the things that worries me, Martha, is that he doesn't listen to people. He believes that he has all the answers, that he's the smartest man in the room. And I've worked for some very different presidents, Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, Barack Obama. One of the things they all had in common was a willingness to listen to people who had experience and then make their own independent judgments. Now, they've gone in different directions, but they never assumed that they had all the answers, and that's one of the things that troubles me.
And how do you think foreign leaders would see him? They've seen this campaign, and there's been some pretty outrageous things said. From your own experience, how do you think right now foreign leaders are saying, what if Trump gets it?
Oh, I think they've spoken for themselves. Many of them have said publicly how worried they are about the possibility of Mr. Trump becoming president. His unpredictability, his lack of understanding of the complexity of international affairs, his threats, his claims that he's going to make other countries do things when, in fact, the President of the United States does not have the power to make them do things. So I think a lot of leaders around the world, both among our friends and potential adversaries, are quite concerned.